September 4th, 476 AD. A teenage boy named Romulus sits on the throne of the Western Roman Empire. His name is almost a joke. Romulus, like the founder. Augustus, like the first emperor. And on this single night, a Germanic warlord named Odoacer walks into the palace at Ravenna and tells him to leave. No battle, no siege. Just go. The boy goes. And just like that, the Western Roman Empire is over. Or so the story goes. Here's the thing. You were probably taught that Rome fell, that barbarians swept in, that civilization collapsed, that the lights went out across Europe. The textbook version gives you a clean ending, a date, a deposed emperor, a tidy close. But the record shows something far messier and far more interesting. The throne wasn't toppled. It was hollow. The question isn't when Rome fell. It's why no one fought to save it. Here's what nobody tells you. 476 AD is a date invented by historians, not experienced by the people who lived through it. The historian Edward Gibbon popularized it centuries later. Most Romans in the East didn't even register it as significant. The surviving administrative records, the contemporary letters, the legal codes, none of them mark that night as the end of anything. What they show instead is a slow institutional hollowing. The empire wasn't struck down. It was gradually abandoned from the inside out. My name is Marcus, and I spend probably too much time reading about the mechanics of civilizational collapse. Not the dramatic moments, but the quiet rot underneath them. The gap between the story we tell and the thing that actually happened. Think about it this way. A hollow throne looks exactly like a real one, until someone sits on it, and it gives way. That's the spine of this story. Rome's power had been draining for decades, the tax base gutted, the army staffed by the very peoples it once conquered, the emperors installed and removed by generals on a near-annual basis. By 476, the throne was already hollow. Odoacer didn't conquer an empire. He just finally acknowledged what everyone already knew. Here's where it gets interesting. In the 50 years before that September night, the Western Empire had 27 emperors. Most lasted less than 2 years. Not because Rome lacked capable men, but because the institution itself had stopped meaning anything. Generals made and unmade emperors like chess pieces. The Senate, once Rome's defining power, had become ceremonial. The real decisions happened in military camps, not marble halls. And the army, the thing that made Rome Rome, was now composed almost entirely of federated Germanic troops fighting under their own commanders, for their own reasons. Odoacer himself was one of them. He wasn't an invader. He was a Roman general asking for what Roman generals had always taken: land for his soldiers. When the teenage emperor Romulus refused, Odoacer simply removed him. Then he sent the imperial regalia to Constantinople, told the Eastern emperor there was no need for a Western one, and went on administering Italy. The machinery kept running. The throne was just empty. Here's the kicker. Our clearest account of Rome's founding comes from Livy, writing 7 centuries after the events he describes. And our clearest account of its fall comes from Gibbon, writing 13 centuries after 476. Both men were constructing narratives, choosing what mattered, what to frame as beginning and end. The absence of a contemporary Roman source calling 476 a catastrophe isn't a gap in the record. It is the record. It tells us the people living through it didn't experience a fall. They experienced a slow fade. You'd think the fall of Rome meant the end of Roman civilization. The record shows the Eastern Empire, Constantinople, Byzantium, continued for nearly 1,000 more years. You'd think Odoacer was an enemy of Rome. He was a Roman military officer who kept Roman law, Roman administration, and Roman titles in place. You'd think the barbarian kingdoms that followed were a rupture. They were, in most cases, conscious imitations of Rome. They wanted to inherit the throne, not destroy it. And the crazy part is, Rome's influence didn't end with its power. It lingered like a ghost in the Catholic Church's Latin, in European legal codes, in the very concept of Western civilization as something worth defending. That ghost is why 476 matters at all. Not because the world changed overnight, but because the story we told about that night shaped everything after it. Medieval kings claimed Roman descent to legitimize their rule. The Holy Roman Empire, which was, famously, neither holy nor Roman, existed for 1,000 years on the borrowed prestige of that hollow throne. Even today, the idea of Western civilization as heir to Rome is doing real political work. The myth of the fall created the need for a resurrection, and that need never quite went away. Let me describe what actually ended on September 4th, 476. Not roads, not aqueducts, not even governance. Odoacer kept most of that. What ended was the fiction, the shared agreement that there was a Roman emperor in the West, that the throne meant something, that the institution was intact. Once that fiction was retired, the hollow throne could finally be seen for what it had been for decades. And here's what that tells us. Civilizations don't usually collapse in a night. They hollow out slowly, while everyone pretends the structure is still solid. Until one quiet moment when someone just stops pretending. If this reframe of Rome's fall changed how you see it, there's a lot more where that came from. The myths we inherited about history, and the messier, more fascinating record underneath them. Subscribe if that kind of thing is your thing. Every video is built the same way. Find the tidy story, follow the evidence, see what's actually there,